Chapter 376. In his days, Yang Kai asked 3 times before Tu Feng suddenly responded, "It's just a minor injury, little lord doesn't need to worry about it." Just as he finished speaking, he coughed up another mouthful of blood. How could this be a minor injury? Both of them had unleashed their full strength, and as a result, it had exploded inside his own body, which was tantamount to him not fainting on the spot. "Do you have any healing pills?" Yang Kai asked. He had some healing pills in his phantom space, but these pills were prepared by Ling Tai Su for him, so their grade wasn't too high. Both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were Yang family blood warriors, so they definitely carried pills refined by the Yang family with them, which were undoubtedly better than Yang Kai's. So Yang Kai didn't try to make a fool of himself. Tang Yuxian nodded, and together with Tu Feng, both pulled out a bottle from their sleeves and poured out a single brown profound grade pill. Both of their faces showed a hint of pain as they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This mysterious grade brown pill was a mysterious grade low-rank pill that all blood warriors carried with them. It was capable of healing all kinds of injuries, big or small. This kind of pill was extremely precious. Even for blood warriors, they would only carry one, so the two of them were naturally reluctant to take it at this time. However, their duty was to ensure the safety of Yang Kai, so if they didn't heal their injuries as soon as possible, it would be a disaster. So even if they felt distressed, even if they didn't want to accept it, the two of them still decisively swallowed the profound grade pill. Everything they did was to protect Yang Kai. After the two of them took the pill, Yang Kai's expression suddenly changed and he quickly pulled them up, then stretched out his foot and wiped the ground a few times to cover up the blood stains. The next moment, Lu Liang arrived with many of the Lu family's masters. "What happened?" Lu Liang asked anxiously with a panicked expression. The huge commotion just now had spread out. The masters of the Liu family were naturally aware of this. When they realized that the place where the noise came from was Yang Kai's residence, they didn't dare to hesitate any longer and rushed over madly. All of them were afraid that something would happen to Yang Kai. If something happened to the young master of the Yang family and the Lu family, then even if they had the backing of the Chiu family, the Lu family would still be finished. With the domineering arrogance of the Yang family, they would not hesitate to flatten this place. It was a matter of life and death for the family. How could Lu Liang not be nervous? How could he not panic? After asking this question, everyone's eyes turned to Yang Kai. Seeing that he was safe and sound, and that there were no wounds on his body, they all let out a sigh of relief. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian also hid very well, both of them slightly circulating their yuan qi. Blood qi appeared on his face, making him look radiant. There was no sign of him being injured at all. "It's fine." Yang Kai chuckled. "This young lord just let Tu Feng and Yuxian exchange a few moves for me to take a look, but I didn't expect that it would cause such a big commotion." "Exchange a few moves?" Lu Liang looked stunned. Yang Kai smiled casually and said, "I'm just bored. Watching masters fight can also relieve my boredom." Listening to him say this, Lu Liang and the others' expressions suddenly became strange, all of them frowning slightly. Looking at the 2 big pits in the ground and the surrounding cracks, Lu Liang and the others were secretly shocked by the strength of the 2 blood warriors. Just exchanging a few moves had caused such a big commotion. If it was really a life or death battle, how powerful would it be? Letting out a hearty laugh, Lu Liang said, "It turns out that young Master Yang is so leisurely and elegant. This Lu and the others were too reckless. You continue, we'll take our leave. Take care." Yang Kai smiled gently, not waiting for Lu Liang to leave before calling out, "Right, Patriarch Lu?" Lu Liang's brow furrowed as he turned around and asked, "What other instructions does young Master Yang have?" Lu Liang's tone and demeanor seemed to have lost the dignified and cautious attitude of yesterday and instead contained a trace of impatience. Unconsciously, his attitude seemed to have changed. Yang Kai didn't care and simply said, "The Lu family is a land of great talents and this place is also a place of great beauty. My 2 blood warriors and I would like to stay here for a few more days. I hope this won't cause you any trouble?" Lu Liang was slightly surprised but didn't think much about it, just smiling and saying, "Young Master Yang being a guest of the Lu family is an honor for my Lu family, there's no need to mention any trouble." Good, that's good. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Lu Liang cupped his fists again and led the crowd away. After they left, Yang Kai turned around and stared at a loft a few dozen meters away. On the second floor, Qiu Yimeng was leaning against the armrest, a meaningful smile on her face as she stared towards Yang Kai. When their four eyes met, Qiu Yimeng raised her chin slightly, showing a hint of defiance. Beside her, Luo Xiaoman also grinned meaningfully, seemingly having discovered some great secret. Yang Kai grinned at them and led the two blood warriors into the house. Inside the room, Yang Kai didn't avoid the two blood warriors and simply changed out of his soaked clothes. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both wore complex expressions as they waited for Yang Kai to speak. But after waiting for a long time, Yang Kai didn't seem to have any intention of speaking. After changing his clothes, Yang Kai sat down directly on a chair. The two blood warriors glanced at each other before bracing themselves and stepping forward, both of them kneeling on the ground and quickly saying, "We are guilty. Please punish us, young master." Yang Kai glanced over at them and said indifferently, "What crime?" Tu Feng's expression became awkward as he quickly said, "Because of our impulsiveness, we have delayed young master's journey." Yang Kai had told Lu Liang at the last moment that he would be staying here for a few more days, clearly wanting Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian to have a safe and stable place to heal. Whether it was Tu Feng or Tang Yuxian, both of them were well aware of this, and because of this, both of them felt some gratitude in their hearts. Very few of the Yang family's young lords would be so considerate towards their subordinates. Their injuries were neither light nor heavy, but if they weren't healed in time, there may be hidden dangers. After Tu Feng finished speaking, Yang Kai didn't say anything. Tang Yuxian also said, "Because of us, young master has been looked down upon by the Lu family. We are guilty." The subtle change in Lu Liang's attitude couldn't be hidden from everyone's eyes. The reason he had such a change was because Yang Kai had said he was bored and had asked the two blood warriors to help him relieve his boredom. Who were the blood warriors? They were masters who had loyally guarded the Yang family for generations and had made countless contributions to the Yang family. They had even used their own lives to save the lives of the Yang family's direct descendants. No matter which generation, the blood warriors had left behind a rich legacy with their own blood. The prosperity of the Yang family was due to the hard work of the blood warriors. The loyalty and dedication of the blood warriors was obvious to all. Therefore, although the outside world didn't like the Yang family, they still greatly admired the blood warriors. But now, the two members of this group were actually fighting just to relieve the boredom of a young lord who had not yet returned to the family. They were as close as brothers and sisters. They didn't even quarrel on ordinary days, but now they were fighting over some trivial order. They weren't monkeys. How could they be played around with to relieve boredom? Yang Kai's debauchery were already clear. That's why Lu Liang's attitude had changed so drastically. If it weren't for Yang Kai taking responsibility for his actions, he wouldn't have been looked down upon so much. If such a thing were to spread out, perhaps the entire world would think that Yang Kai was a pile of mud that couldn't hold up a wall, which would have a great impact on his future. In an instant, the two blood warriors had thought about many things, which was why Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both felt extremely guilty and uncomfortable. What else? Yang Kai looked at them with a chuckle. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian glanced at each other, not knowing how to answer. "Get up." Yang Kai smiled. "I know, blood warriors only kneel to their master. You haven't fully recognized me yet, so there's no need for you to kneel." The two blood warriors both blushed slightly. Yang Kai's words were straightforward, but they were also reflecting their thoughts. Along the way, Yang Kai had indeed brought them a lot of surprises, and today they were even more grateful, but there was still some distance between them and submitting to him. "When the day comes when you're willing to follow me, you can kneel again," Yang Kai said flatly. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian stood up awkwardly. Tu Feng hesitated for a moment before hesitating, "But now the Lu family is definitely no longer optimistic about Little Lord." I said, "I don't have any ideas about them. Whether they think highly of me or not has nothing to do with me. Looking down on me is their own fault for having eyes but failing to see." Yang Kai grinned meaningfully, his expression becoming cold as he said, "As for the two of you, Don't try to spy on me again. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's expressions changed slightly as they recalled the pressure they had just felt and couldn't help feeling a little scared. The two of them knew that spying on him a moment ago had made Yang Kai feel a little uncomfortable, so they quickly nodded. What a joke! If the two of them had continued to feel that terrifying pressure, they would have been crushed into meat paste. They really couldn't understand how Yang Kai had managed to withstand it. You two focus on healing your wounds for the next few days. When you're all healed, you can set off for the central capital. Tang Yuxian responded in a daze. After this incident, Lu Liang didn't seem to care much about Yang Kai anymore. The Lu family's elders all agreed that this Yang family young lord wasn't enough to accomplish great things. Even with Lu Liang's shrewdness and wisdom, he was still deceived by Yang Kai's disguise. With a crisp cry, the golden feather eagle descended from the sky and landed on Yang Kai's shoulder, using its hook-like beak to affectionately stroke Yang Kai's hair. The golden feather eagle didn't suffer any hardships during its time with Yang Kai. Before returning to the Lu family, it went out to hunt for food on its own. Once it arrived at the Lu family, its meals were even more sumptuous, with all kinds of fresh meat being provided, saving it the trouble of hunting. However, this guy only ate live prey, so every time it ate, the scene was a bit bloody. Yang Kai stared at the golden feather eagle, dipped a drop of myriad drug liquid into his hand, and fed it to the golden feather eagle. These days, Yang Kai would feed it a drop of myriad drug liquid every day, and after a period of time, the golden feather eagle seemed to have grown stronger. However, Yang Kai still had some ideas about this golden feather eagle. He wanted to know if it could evolve to the sixth order, and if so, when would it evolve? Chapter 377. In the entire Yang family, it seemed that only one golden feather eagle had successfully evolved to the sixth order, and that golden feather eagle was the leader of all the eagles. In order to make that golden feather eagle evolve, the Yang family had spent a lot of financial and material resources, and finally, through sheer luck, they had succeeded. Since then, the Yang family's golden feather eagle had never evolved to the sixth order again. As time passed, the cost was not proportional to the harvest, so the Yang family no longer had any ideas for the golden feather eagle's evolution. In any case, the strength of the Yang family didn't depend on the golden feather eagle. The biggest role of these eagles was to investigate the enemy and find their descendants. Whether it was the fifth order or the sixth order, for the Yang family, it really didn't make much of a difference. But for Yang Kai, it was different. If the golden feather eagle in front of him could evolve to the sixth order, the role it could play would also skyrocket. At that time, even if it faced an immortal ascension boundary master, it would be able to fight back. In this situation, besides the two blood warriors Yang Kai needed to subdue, he could only rely on this golden feather eagle. In the inheritance war, any little bit of help could affect success or failure. The myriad drug liquid, Yang Kai himself had been taking it every day. If taken over a long period of time, it could allow one to be reborn, so it would definitely be helpful to the golden feather eagle. After so many days, the golden feather eagle had become completely dependent on Yang Kai. This wasn't just because of the beast slave seal, but also because of its high intelligence. His eyes flashing, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and flicked the golden feather eagle. The sound of something shattering rang out and a ripple spread out from the golden feather eagle's body. This ripple spread out and disappeared. It was the sound of the beast slave seal being undone by Yang Kai. Without the beast slave seal, the golden feather eagle first tilted its head and looked at Yang Kai, its bright eyes seeming somewhat puzzled, but it didn't show any signs of rejection, instead continuing to comb Yang Kai's hair. "Heh heh." Yang Kai chuckled. This period of time had been imperceptible. It was enough to make the golden feather eagle obey Yang Kai's orders even without the beast slave seal. The monster beast was really easy to deal with. Just give it a dozen days of myriad drug liquid, and it would become completely loyal. It was loyal, and it would not reveal the secret of Yang Kai. "It's time to eat." A strange smile appeared on Yang Kai's face as he looked in a certain direction. With a shake of his hand, he released the golden feather eagles. Spreading its wings, the golden feather eagle flew up and grabbed a porcupine from the blood cage that the Lu family had prepared for it. Then, it soared into the sky. The porcupine wasn't small, and the golden feather eagle didn't seem to be able to hold it firmly. When it was in the air, it loosened its grip, and a sound of huffing and puffing could be heard. The porcupine fell from the sky. After a long while, a splashing sound was heard from the other side. It seemed like there was the sound of blood splattering. The golden feather eagle circled in the air and rushed towards the fresh blood. Yang Kai slowly stood up. After tidying up his appearance, he strode out of the courtyard towards the house where the golden feather eagle had landed. Lu family main hall. Lu Liang was discussing an important matter with several of the Lu family's elders when a servant rushed in. Lu Liang's expression froze. Lu Liang was stunned. "What's the matter?" The servant hurriedly knelt to the ground and said in a panic, "Patriarch, something bad has happened. Elder C's house has been stained with blood." What? Lu Liang stood up from his chair. The other Lu family elders also wore shocked expressions. It seemed that something terrible had happened. What happened? Without any delay, Lu Liang hurriedly walked down from the head of the table. While rushing out, he casually picked up the servant and asked in a hurry. He couldn't help feeling nervous. "Elder C. Lucy." The Lu family had only one above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master, a character who stood at the peak of this world. It was precisely because of his existence that the Lu family was able to become a first-class family. It could be said that Lu C's survival was directly related to the status of the Lu family. Under normal circumstances, Lu C would not leave the Lu family residence, instead choosing to sit here and act as a deterrent. Moreover, because Lu C had encountered some problems when breaking through to the above Immortal Ascension boundary a few years ago, it was not convenient for him to leave the Lu family residence. Usually, he would retreat into his own courtyard. That area was also a restricted area of the Lu family. No one was allowed to approach it. Even Lu Liang, the patriarch, unless it was a matter of life or death, he didn't dare disturb him. But now, Lu C's house had been stained with blood. How could the Lu family elders not worry? It was also this servant's fault for not explaining clearly. When everyone heard the word blood, they all thought that Lu C had encountered some kind of problem during his cultivation, causing him to be injured. After the servant reported what he had seen, Lu Liang and the others breathed a sigh of relief. In their hearts, Lu Liang was both angry and amused, silently cursing the servant for being so flustered that he couldn't even speak properly. However, the fact that a porcupine had fallen into Lu C's courtyard was still a big deal. If it disturbed Elder C's retreat, it wouldn't be a joke. According to the servant, it was because the Yang family's golden feather eagle didn't hold on to the porcupine properly while it was eating and accidentally let it fall into Lu C's courtyard. Looking at the scene from a distance, he saw a bloody scene. The servant didn't dare to rush in and disturb Elder C, so he had run over to ask for instructions. "There's nothing for you to do." After Lu Liang heard this, he released the servant but didn't stop walking, still leading everyone towards Lu C's residence, a look of displeasure on his face. Most of the other Lu family elders also wore similar expressions. Looking around, none of them found any trace of Yang Kai or the two blood warriors. Someone whispered, "Patriarch, that Yang family young lord is too useless. He couldn't even keep an eye on that eagle and actually disturbed Elder C. And we need to hurry up and make them leave. But he was brought here by young Lady Chiu. If he doesn't leave, what can we do? Why would young Lady Chiu accompany such a useless young lord?" When everyone mentioned Yang Kai, they all slowly shook their heads, obviously thinking that this young lord wasn't anything special. With his status as a direct descendant of the Yang family, if he really participated in the inheritance war, it was likely he would quickly fall. "Shut up, all of you!" Lu Liang calmly shouted. Although he wasn't optimistic about Yang Kai, he wasn't someone the Lu family could criticize behind his back. If he or the blood warriors were to hear this, it would only bring disaster upon themselves. Hearing Lu Liang's shout, the Lu family elders no longer dared to gossip. A short time later, everyone arrived at the Lu family's quietest and most remote courtyard. As they approached, everyone's brow furrowed as they stared blankly at the scene before them. Because the door to this courtyard was actually wide open. Lu Ci's courtyard door had always been closed, no one had ever dared to open it. But now, it was actually open. What kind of situation was this? Lu Liang held his breath and cautiously poked his head inside, his face pale with anger as he nearly fainted. A large pool of blood and bits of flesh was now present in the originally tranquil and untainted courtyard. The tragic appearance of the porcupine was faintly discernible. This porcupine must have fallen from a high place, sputtering a large amount of radioactive blood as it fell to the ground, dying without even making a sound. The Yang family's golden feather eagle stood to the side, feasting on the fresh meat. The Yang family young lord on the other hand was like a country bumpkin, squatting on the ground with his arms crossed, watching the golden feather eagle eat with great interest. There was even a faint smile on his face. Lu Liang rolled his eyes. He was so angry that his 7 orifices were smoking. Facing Elder C, no matter who it was, the Lu family had to be extremely cautious. No one dared to cross the gate of this courtyard. But this Yang family young lord, not only had he walked in like there was no one around, he had even stopped to admire his family's monster beast, not even treating himself as an outsider. At this moment, Lu Liang inexplicably felt a sense of humiliation. It was as if a treasure he had been treading on thin ice had been driven straight in and taken away. In short, his mood was incomparably strange. Patriarch. The Lu family members were also stunned, not knowing what to do. Waiting like this wasn't a good idea, so Lu Liang thought about it with a gloomy face before bracing himself and walking in. When the Lu family members saw their patriarch enter, they naturally didn't want to fall behind. They had never entered Elder C's courtyard before. This time, it was all thanks to Yang Kai's blessing. Walking straight to Yang Kai's side, Lu Liang took a deep breath, leaned over, cupped his fists, and called out softly, "Young Master Yang, Young Master Yang." Yang Kai seemed to notice that someone had arrived and quickly turned his head, unable to help feeling surprised for a moment before squatting on the ground and returning the courtesy, "Patriarch Lu." The flesh on Lu Liang's face twitched slightly, but he was too lazy to care about this matter of etiquette. Just as he was about to explain the situation, Yang Kai raised a finger to his lips and solemnly made a shu sound. Lu Liang was slightly surprised and asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" Yang Kai smiled silently and pointed to the front. "Don't speak, you'll disturb the eagle's meal." Lu Liang was almost confused. "Eagle, what time is it to be an eagle? This is the retreat of my Lu family's patriarch. Even if you are a Yang family young lord, even if you are the Yang family's silver blood golden feather eagle, you can't compare to Lu Si. Disturbing the eagle's meal? This patriarch was worried that you would disturb Elder C by doing nothing here. No matter how steady and wise Lu Liang was, at this moment, he couldn't help but want to curse. Quickly taking a few deep breaths, he squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and whispered, "Young Master Yang, this is not the place to talk. Can we speak elsewhere?" Yang Kai nodded. "If you have anything to say it later, let it eat its fill first." Lu Liang's body trembled and he staggered slightly. At this moment he really wanted to vomit blood. He even felt like a scholar meeting a soldier, unable to reason with a soldier. Lu Liang's eloquence, which he had always been proud of, did not play a role at this moment. Facing a blockhead like Yang Kai, Lu Liang felt like his tongue was tied. Young Master Yang, what I mean is, can we talk outside first?" Chapter 378. Lu Liang really had no other choice. He simply couldn't understand Yang Kai. Although he was the patriarch of the Lu family, Yang Kai's status wasn't low either. Even if Lu Liang was annoyed, he couldn't vent his anger on the spot, so he could only speak gently, hoping that this young Master Yang would understand the meaning of his words. Unfortunately, this young Master Yang didn't seem to understand at all. He seemed to have a single bone in his head, and even though the meaning of Lu Liang's words was so obvious, he still couldn't help asking, "Why do you want to go somewhere else?" The blue veins on Lu Liang's forehead throbbed slightly. Suppressing the anger and depression in his heart, he said with a dignified expression, "I won't hide it from young Master Yang. This place is the retreat of one of my Lu family's masters. No one usually comes to disturb them, so if we speak like this, I'm afraid it will disturb them. If that happens, yeah." "Master?" Kai Yang hurriedly stood up, his voice suddenly becoming louder, like a clap of thunder. The faces of the Lu family members suddenly became extremely ugly. "This guy, is he doing this on purpose?" Yang Kai didn't seem to know anything about this, looking around with great interest before turning to Lu Liang with a smile and asking, "How high?" "Young Master Yang." Lu Liang's face became gloomy as he snorted. He had really reached the limit of his patience. "Please conduct yourself with dignity." It wasn't easy to force Lu Liang to say such words. If this place wasn't Lu Ci's retreat, Lu Liang wouldn't have taken the risk of offending Yang Kai. Yang Kai stared blankly for a moment before letting out a chuckle. His smile was calm. There was no other meaning to it, just a slight surprise. He really didn't expect that this place was an important part of the Lu family. He knew that there must be a master living here, otherwise, it would have been impossible to make the golden feather eagle drop the porcupine and take the opportunity to run here. But even though he knew there was a master here, Yang Kai didn't know until Lu Liang and the others hurriedly appeared. He was afraid he had touched a nerve that the Lu family couldn't touch. But now that things had reached this point, he had no choice but to play the fool to avoid embarrassing both sides. Yang Kai wasn't someone who didn't know when to back down. As soon as Lu Liang and the others appeared, he realized that something was wrong. Now that Lu Liang showed such an expression, he immediately knew that something was wrong. Naturally, he could determine who was cultivating in seclusion here. The Lu family's only above immortal ascension boundary master. Otherwise, Lu Liang wouldn't be so nervous and cautious. Interesting. The thing that he was interested in was actually in the house of such an expert. This was going to be difficult. Frowning, Yang Kai was considering whether or not he should just let it go when the door of a nearby house suddenly opened. A creaking sound was heard. Lu Liang and the others all trembled, their faces solemn as they quickly turned to face the door and saluted. "That little friend. Come in and talk." An aged voice came from inside the house. The voice was ordinary, and one couldn't tell whether it was happy, angry, sad, or joyful. However, it shocked the group of people outside. Yang Kai's eyes flashed as he chuckled. He didn't stand on ceremony and walked over. Lu Liang eagerly watched, a look of envy on his face as he slowly followed. Arriving at the front of the house, Yang Kai paused and glanced back at Lu Liang. Gesturing, he said, "Patriarch Lu, please go first." Lu Liang smiled bitterly and waved his hand again and again. "I don't dare. Elder C only called for you, so you can go first." As he said this, he led his men to spread out outside the door and stood there straight, with a meticulous expression on his face. Yang Kai glanced at him and knew that he wasn't being polite. Nodding slightly, he stepped into the house. The house was simple and crude, there wasn't even a bed inside, only a table and chairs. On the table was a purple clay teapot, and other than that, there was nothing else. But as soon as Yang Kai entered the house, his eyes lit up as he stared greedily at the thing under the old man's butt. His eyes were unscrupulous, without the slightest concealment. The old man in the room was obviously the strongest person in the Lu family, Lu Ci. Lu Ci's figure looked a little thin, and his hair and beard were all white. His temperament was somewhat similar to Ling Tai-Su's, but not as indifferent as Ling Tai-Su. However, overall, Lu Ci still had the unique demeanor of a powerful master. This was the second above immortal ascension boundary master Yang Kai had seen so far. When one reached the above immortal ascension boundary, they seemed to give off a feeling of transcendence. This feeling was indescribable and mysterious. Any above immortal ascension boundary master was a master who stood at the peak of the world. At this moment, Lu Ci was sitting cross-legged on a huge piece of jade. This jade was golden in color and had a brilliant light flowing across its surface, like a fish swimming happily in water. This piece of jade seemed to be a naturally formed bed, large enough to accommodate a single person. Lu Ci sat on top of it, his aura seemingly endless. The energy in this jade was extremely restrained, so even though Yang Kai was standing a few meters away from it, he couldn't feel the slightest fluctuation. However, the Yang origin seal on Yang Kai's chest pulsed. The Yang origin seal could only sense the existence of Yang attribute treasures. With this thing, Yang Kai could accurately search for Yang attribute precious treasures. From the moment he entered the Lu family, Yang Kai had already noticed the existence of this large piece of jade. That was why he had told Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian that the Lu family had something that interested him. However, in the end he only knew that this was a Yang attribute treasure, but he didn't know what it was. Now that he looked at it, it really lived up to his expectations. Such a large piece of natural jade, if he absorbed all of it into his dantian, he might be able to directly break through to the next realm. The dantian didn't have much Yang liquid left after he had squandered it in the evil cavern. If he ran out of Yang liquid, Yang Kai didn't know if the evil energy in his unyielding golden skeleton would erupt and affect his body. On top of that, if he ran out of Yang liquid, he wouldn't be able to use any of the methods he could use. So during this time, what Yang Kai wanted to do most was to replenish his Yang liquid. However, Yang attribute precious treasures were difficult to find, even if he returned to the Yang family. The Yang family wouldn't be able to provide him with any help. A young lord who wanted to participate in the inheritance war had to rely on his own accumulation of talents and materials. Now that he had encountered such a great opportunity, how could he easily let it go? However, he had never expected that the treasure he coveted would actually be the bed of an above immortal ascension boundary master. Yang Kai's expression suddenly became strange, wondering what kind of conditions he should offer. How could he make him willingly give up this treasure? Moreover, this was still an empty promise, so the more difficult it became. For a time, Yang Kai also hesitated in his heart, but on the surface he maintained a calm expression, still staring straight at the precious treasure under the others' butt. Lu Si had been staring at Yang Kai since he entered the room. At first, his expression was indifferent, like an ancient well without any ripples, but after a moment, he couldn't help laughing. Little friend's intentions are so obvious, you really came prepared. Yang Kai finally withdrew his greedy gaze and grinned meaningfully. I've made a fool of myself. In front of an above immortal ascension boundary master, Yang Kai was certain all of his tricks had long been seen through. Yang Kai wasn't going to quibble about anything. Saying so, Yang Kai sat down cross-legged in front of Lu Si. Outside, the Lu family's elders all perked up their ears, holding their breaths, wanting to hear what the two were talking about inside the room. The Yang family's young lord. Truly extraordinary. Lu Si nodded slightly, a trace of appreciation flashing across his face. Truly from a great family, this kind of temperament and calmness is not something the Lu family can cultivate. Yang Kai grinned. Senior is too kind, the Lu family is actually not bad. Lu Si smiled. He was an above immortal ascension boundary master. Unless it was a young lord from one of the central capital's 8 great families, anyone else who saw him would be somewhat cautious, but this young man in front of him didn't seem to care at all. As soon as he entered the room, his eyes were fixed on his but not putting him in his eyes at all. If this young man hadn't seen the world, if he hadn't come from a great family, how could he be so calm? Did you come here for this? Lu Si got straight to the point, pointing to his lower body. Yes. Yang Kai admitted frankly, it wasn't premeditated, it was just a temporary idea, heh. Why do you need it? I need it and I urgently need it. Yang Kai said solemnly. This old master understands. Lu Si nodded slightly, suddenly smiling, although I understand, I can't give it to you. I understand that, Li Yundong said. Yang Kai didn't look disappointed, apparently having already expected this, sitting up straight and saying, that's why I want to discuss some conditions with Senior. Lu Si looked at him playfully and said, even if you are a young lord of the Yang family, this old master doesn't want to, let alone discuss conditions with you, so you are destined to be disappointed. Yang Kai shook his head. Senior's words are too arbitrary. Everything in this world, as long as it is a treasure, it has a price that Senior is willing to part with, it's just a matter of whether or not I can afford it. Lu Si still shook his head firmly. The Lu family people outside all perked up their ears to listen, but after listening for a while, all of them wore strange expressions. Although the conversation between the old man and young man in the room was clearly heard, the more they listened, the more confused they became. Why did it feel like this young lord was eyeing some kind of treasure? Was it premeditated? Or was it just a moment ago? Was he willing to part with it at a price? Was he trying to buy it or rob it? The Lu family people all looked at each other, their heads filled with confusion. Inside the room, Lu Si chuckled, "Young Master Yang doesn't need to waste his energy. I didn't call you in to talk about this." Of course Senior didn't want to talk about this, I understand that clearly. Yang Kai nodded slightly and grinned, "But I have taken a fancy to this jade bed of yours." Lu Si didn't say anything, but Lu Liang, who was outside the room, heard this sentence and his expression suddenly changed. Angrily interjecting, he shouted, "Young Master Yang, Elder Si's Yang crystal jade bed is the most important thing to my Lu family. No one is allowed to have any ideas about it." Today, he had been repeatedly angered by Yang Kai, but Lu Liang had been forced to swallow his anger. But now that he heard that this Yang Kai was actually interested in the Yang crystal jade bed, Lu Liang couldn't bear it any longer and immediately shouted, his tone quite direct and straightforward, as if he would fall out with Yang Kai if he dared act this way again. Chapter 379. Lu Liang's tone was extremely tough, but when Yang Kai heard it, his expression didn't change. Lu Si took note of his reaction and nodded secretly, understanding that this young lord wasn't an unreasonable person. Smiling lightly, Yang Kai casually said, "Since Patriarch Lu says so, let's not talk about this Yang crystal jade bed for now." Outside the room, Lu Liang snorted lightly, his expression becoming slightly sullen. "As long as you don't have any ideas about our family's Yang crystal jade bed, anything can be discussed. Elder Si, if you don't mind, how about we talk about you?" Yang Kai tilted his head and looked at Lu Si calmly. Even though he had reached the above immortal ascension boundary, Lu Si couldn't help feeling slightly stunned, pointing his finger to his nose and asking, "Talk about this old master?" Yang Kai nodded calmly. "Young Master Yang, please speak freely. This old master is all ears," Lu Si chuckled, showing a look of interest. A young man actually dared to speak so calmly in front of him and even shamelessly wanted to talk about him. This was quite interesting. Since breaking through to the above immortal ascension boundary, it had been a long time since anyone dared to act so casually in front of him. For a moment, Lu Si couldn't help feeling curious, wondering what Yang Kai would say and what kind of nonsense he would spout. "Then this junior won't offend you." Yang Kai said so, but his expression didn't show the slightest trace of modesty, instead casually saying, "Elder Si has now reached the above immortal ascension boundary, the pinnacle of this world's martial Dao. Unless one of those above immortal ascension boundary masters comes to challenge you, it can be said that there are few who can match you in this world." Lu Si smiled lightly. "What kind of realm is the above immortal ascension boundary?" "I don't know, but I do know that once one's strength reaches this level, it is difficult to rely on external forces. Whether it is pills or secret scriptures, I'm afraid none of them can help Elder Si's strength advance any further. If you want to improve your strength, it seems that you can only rely on your own comprehension of the martial Dao to break through the shackles of heaven and earth." Lu Si's expression finally became dignified as he stared at Yang Kai with some surprise. He didn't know how this young man knew this. Yang Kai observed his expression and smiled confidently, "But from the beginning to the end, I have never seen anything like this before. Elder Si, you've been sitting on this jade bed and haven't moved an inch. Furthermore, he has been sitting on it for many years." "Yes." Lu Si nodded. "There are only two reasons why you're doing this. One is because you want to use this jade bed to cultivate and strengthen yourself. But as I said earlier, when one's strength reaches your level, it's already impossible to borrow any external force, so this reason can be eliminated." "Young Master Yang is being too presumptuous," Lu Si chuckled. "With this old man's current strength, I am indeed unable to borrow any external forces to strengthen myself. However, I can completely rely on this jade bed to consolidate my cultivation. No, 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 Elder C, you don't practice a yang attribute cultivation method, so sitting here has nothing to do with cultivation. Yang Kai said firmly. Lu Si couldn't help but feel moved. Looking at him suspiciously, Lu Si asked, "How do you know I don't practice a yang attribute secret art?" At his level of strength, if he didn't release his Yuan Qi, even a peak immortal ascension boundary master wouldn't be able to see through him, so how could Yang Kai be so sure? Yang Kai grinned but didn't explain. Lu Si was stunned and no longer denied it. Instead, he said, "Young Master Yang is right, sitting here has nothing to do with cultivation." Yang Kai straightened his body and smiled. Then there is only one explanation. The reason why Elder C has been sitting up there all this time is to heal your wounds, or something related to healing. Lu Si's eyes narrowed slightly. Outside the house, the Lu family members all held their breaths, none of them daring to breathe, a chill running through their hearts, secretly marveling at Kai Yang's sinister vision. Lu Si was the foundation of the Lu family's first-class family status, but his chronic illness was the Lu family's biggest secret. If this secret were to spread, it would likely cause a storm. Without mentioning anything else, a nearby first-class family would likely launch a large-scale attack. Seemingly unaware of the dangerous light in Lu Si's eyes, Yang Kai continued to speak with a calm expression. "Elder C, although you have restrained your aura to the extreme, there is still a faint sense of weakness. Moreover, when your Yuan Qi flows through your body, it isn't continuous and there are occasional pauses. If I'm not mistaken, Elder C's meridians are somewhat blocked, right?" Lu Si's eyes flashed as he stared at Yang Kai, his expression calm, but in his heart a monstrous wave was set off. The young man in front of him was indeed only a Yuan Qi 7th stage master. But his vision was far more accurate than most immortal ascension boundary masters. His opinion and speculations were not much different from Lu Si's current physical condition. Lu Si's expression gradually became strange while the rest of the Lu family members outside also wore looks of horror. It was as if an incredible secret had been discovered by this young man. Yang Kai, on the other hand, chuckled and calmly said, "If anyone else dared to say such a thing in front of Elder C, they would probably end up as corpses on the spot." Lu Si nodded. For the peace of the Lu family, the death of a few people isn't a big deal. "But I'm different, right? The Lu family wouldn't dare kill me." Yang Kai continued, a look of disdain on his face. Lu Si laughed while Lu Liang and the others also helplessly shook their heads. "Now that I know the Lu family's biggest secret, what does Elder C think you should use to block my mouth?" Yang Kai looked at him with a smile. Lu Si's expression became strange. For the first time, he felt somewhat restrained in front of this young man. Yang Kai's background and identity really gave Lu Si a headache. "If young Master Yang has any request, please state it, but this Yang crystal jade bed is absolutely not something I can part with." Lu Si was filled with regret. He had long known that this little brat was up to no good and had even called him in out of curiosity, but now it seemed he had lifted a stone only to smash his own foot. What an unlucky year! Yang Kai's brow wrinkled. Since Lu Si had said so, he also understood the importance of this Yang crystal jade bed to him. This large piece of jade was at least a mysterious grade heaven and earth treasure. The Yang Yuan Qi it contained was pure and rich. Lu Si was using this gentle Yang Yuan Qi to resolve the blockages in his meridians. If Yang Kai really took it away, Lu Si's life would likely be cut short and the Lu family wouldn't give up. After thinking about it for a moment, Yang Kai looked up and said, "Elder C, is there no other way to resolve this situation?" If he could prevent Lu Si from using the Yang crystal jade bed to clear his meridians, then he might be able to ask him to part with this treasure. If there was no other way, Yang Kai could only give up. "There is." To Yang Kai's surprise, Lu Si actually nodded. "What is it?" Yang Kai suddenly saw a glimmer of hope and asked anxiously. "I need a mysterious grade pill." Lu Si glanced over at Yang Kai with a smile. "If you can help this old master find this mysterious pill, this old master will give you this Yang crystal jade bed for free." Lu Si spoke so casually, But Yang Kai also knew that this was definitely not an ordinary pill. A mysterious grade pill? Yang Kai smiled bitterly. Yes, and it's a mysterious grade mid-rank pill. Lu Si added. Yang Kai's face was filled with helplessness. A mysterious grade mid-rank pill? The number of people in this world who could refine this kind of pill could be counted on one's fingers. Not to mention the success rate, even the materials required were difficult to find. Which mysterious grade mid-rank pill was not worth at least 1,000,000 silvers? However, such a mysterious grade pill was not impossible to refine. As far as Yang Kai knew, there were two people who could do so: Xiao Fusheng and Xianing Chang. Xiao Fusheng was the world's top alchemist and could refine a mysterious grade high-rank pill. Xianing Chang was able to refine a mysterious grade low-rank pill, so after such a long time, her strength must have grown, so refining a mysterious grade mid-rank pill shouldn't be difficult for her. Seemingly seeing Yang Kai's hesitation, Lu Si smiled and said, "This old master will take a step back. This old master will help you gather the necessary alchemy materials. If you can find someone to help this old master refine this mysterious grade pill, this Yang crystal jade bed will be yours." Really? Yang Kai's face lit up. Lu Si couldn't help but be startled, feeling a bit uneasy in his heart, wondering why this little brat seemed so excited. Not only did he not feel like this was a problem, but he also seemed eager to try. Could it be that he knew some alchemy grandmaster? However, Lu Si was still an above immortal ascension boundary master, so naturally he couldn't take back his words, so he nodded and said, "Really?" "Ha!" Yang Kai couldn't help laughing. "Then that's easy, Elder Si. I'm afraid your Yang crystal jade bed will have to change its name." Seeing him so confident, Lu Si finally showed some interest and couldn't wait to ask, "Does young Master Yang have a way?" Yes, naturally I do." Yang Kai nodded repeatedly. Lu Si couldn't help breathing heavily. For the past few years, because of the problems with his meridians, he had been trapped in this Yang crystal jade bed, rarely able to go out. He was an above immortal ascension boundary master and was respected by many, but only he knew his own suffering. He was simply a poor man trapped in this room. If he could really obtain this mysterious grade pill, Lu Si would be able to escape. Compared to his freedom, this Yang crystal jade bed, no matter how precious it was nothing. Swallowing hard, Lu Si suppressed the trembling in his voice and asked, "Does young Master Yang know some powerful master?" Yang Kai grinned meaningfully and nodded. "I once spent some time on Medicine King's Valley's hidden cloud peak." Lu Si's expression changed slightly while the other Lu family members outside were also somewhat stunned. After a long time, Lu Si asked, "Hidden Cloud Peak? Xiao Fusheng?" Lu Si's expression suddenly became strange as he swept his eyes over Yang Kai and frowned. "Young Master Yang isn't joking, right?" "Naturally, I'm not joking." Lu Si's expression became more and more strange, and after a long time slowly shook his head. "It's not that this old master doesn't trust young Master Yang, it's just that Grandmaster Xiao seems to only have one disciple, and that one is a woman. What's more, this old master personally went to Hidden Cloud Peak 2 months ago but did not see you there." Chapter 380. 2 months ago? Yang Kai frowned. 2 months ago I was still in the ash-gray cloud evil land, so naturally you wouldn't have been able to see me. I only stayed on Hidden Cloud Peak for 2 or 3 months before leaving. Pausing for a moment, he asked suspiciously, "Since Elder Si went to Hidden Cloud Peak, why didn't you ask Grandmaster to help you with alchemy?" Lu Si smiled bitterly. At that time, Medicine King's Valley had many things to do, and Grandmaster Xiao was also in a difficult situation. According to his disciple, he seemed to be researching something. This old master was fortunate enough to visit Hidden Cloud Peak, but he didn't even get to see Grandmaster's face. Speaking of this, Lu Si's face didn't show the slightest embarrassment, only helplessness. This was Xiao Fusheng. Even though his strength wasn't very strong, and even though Medicine King's Valley was just a second-class sect, even if a master like Lu Si had gone there, Xiao Fusheng could still see him. However, Lu Si didn't dare to have the slightest complaint and still respectfully referred to Xiao Fusheng as Grandmaster. Is that so? Yang Kai smiled strangely and said, "What if I can ask Grandmaster to help you refine that mysterious grade pill? Will the words I just said count?" Lu Si stared at him inexplicably before slowly shaking his head. How could a character like Grandmaster listen to you? Outside, Lu Liang also interjected, "Young Master Yang, there are some big words that can't be said casually." Yang Kai looked at Lu Si faintly and also shook his head. "Big words or not, you'll know once you try. Although I haven't been on Hidden Cloud Peak for long, I can still ask Grandmaster to help me refine a mysterious grade pill." Lu Si was stunned for a moment before he stared at Yang Kai with a burning gaze. Outside, Lu Liang and the others were also horrified. They all knew Xiao Fuxing's name and were even more clear about his current status. The Lu family's first master had been refused entrance, so how could Yang Kai ask Grandmaster Xiao to refine a mysterious grade pill for him? That was a profound level middle grade pill, not a pill without any grade. Even if it was Grandmaster Xiao who refined it, it would take a lot of time and effort. If you miss this village, there won't be another opportunity. Elder Si should consider this carefully. Yang Kai looked at Lu Si with a smile. Lu Si's expression was uncertain. Obviously he was also very conflicted, not knowing whether to believe Yang Kai or not. Logically speaking, there was no need for the Yang family's young lord to deceive him, but he was just a young man. It was normal for young people to like boasting and putting on airs. After frowning for a long time, Lu Si suddenly said, "It's not that this old master does not trust young Master Yang. Since you dare to say so, it seems that his relationship with Grandmaster Xiao isn't shallow." Yang Kai didn't deny it, his expression indifferent. Since young Master Yang has also spent some time on Hidden Cloud Peak, this old master will take the liberty of asking a few questions. Lu Si obviously wanted to verify whether Yang Kai was telling the truth. "Just ask away, Elder Si." Lu Si saw that Yang Kai didn't show any signs of panic and nodded slightly, hesitating for a moment before asking, "Grandmaster Xiao has a disciple? Has young Master Yang ever met her?" Yang Kai laughed in spite of himself. Did Elder Si not inquire about that disciple's surname? "She seems to be called Dong Qinyan. She is the Dong family's young lady. The Dong family and Yang family have a marriage alliance. Dong Qinyan is my cousin." Lu Si was stunned for a moment. Only now did he recall this matter. He exclaimed, "So that person was young Master Yang?" Yang Kai asked curiously, "When this old master went to Hidden Cloud Peak, I heard that Grandmaster Xiao had set up a test half a year ago. In order to accept disciples, a man and a woman successfully passed. The woman was Dong Qinyan, and the man was said to be the Dong family's young lady's guard. Now it seems that he wasn't a guard at all. It was clearly you, young Master Yang." "Yes." Yang Kai didn't deny it and nodded, "But Grandmaster Xiao and I are not master and disciple." When the Lu family elders heard this, all of them couldn't help feeling shocked. None of them had expected that there would be such a connection between Yang Kai and Xiao Fuxing. Having passed Xiao Fuxing's test, he was now Xiao Fuxing's disciple. With such an alchemy grandmaster backing him, even if he failed in the Yang family's inheritance war, it wouldn't be a big problem. His future would always be bright. Lu Liang's eyes flashed, seemingly thinking that he should re-examine Yang Kai. At this moment, Lu Si was 80% convinced, but he still asked one last question. This old master lived in Hidden Cloud Peak for a few days and was fortunate enough to see what Grandmaster Xiao was researching from young Lady Dong. "May I ask young Master Yang, what was Grandmaster Xiao researching?" Yang Kai leisurely replied, "A spirit array." Something that could make Xiao Fuxing so anxious was definitely related to alchemy. It should be the alchemy spirit array that Yang Kai had asked Xia Ningchong to pass to Grandmaster Xiao when he left Hidden Cloud Peak. Lu Si's heart shook as he finally determined that the relationship between Yang Kai and Xiao Fuxing was indeed extraordinary, otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to know this information. "It should be such a spirit array," Yang Kai said as he casually drew a spirit array on the ground. Lu Si quickly held his breath and stared at it intently. This spirit array was mysterious and complex, making it difficult to understand. Even though Lu Si had seen it once before, He could only recall a small part of its contents and couldn't recall the whole picture. However, Yang Kai at this moment seemed to be able to draw a complete spirit array at will. Apparently, he was already very familiar with it. That's it. Lu Si nodded repeatedly. This was the second time he had seen it, but he still couldn't understand it. Closing his eyes and trying to recall, he still couldn't recall much. After finishing his drawing, Yang Kai wiped away the spirit array and turned to look at Lu Si. At this moment, this old master from the Lu family finally didn't dare to underestimate Yang Kai, knowing that the young man in front of him was the one who would obtain the mysterious grade core. Looking nervous and expectant, Lu Si even cautiously asked, "Young Master Yang, about that mysterious grade core, give me a pen and paper, I can write a letter right now." "Quickly bring me a pen and paper." Lu Si quickly shouted towards the outside, a touch of red appearing on his old face. Outside the room, everyone's mood was fluctuating, so when they heard Lu Si's shout, they couldn't help but shudder. Lu Liang quickly ordered one of his subordinates, "Go quickly." The Immortal Ascension Boundary Master also didn't dare to delay, his body transforming into a blue light and disappearing from the spot. After only 10 breaths of time, he returned, holding a pen and ink in his hand, respectfully walked in, placed it in front of Yang Kai, and then respectfully withdrew. "Young Master Yang, please." Lu Si personally spread out the paper, dipped the pen in ink, and handed it to Yang Kai. Yang Kai smiled, picked up the pen, and began writing. Lu Si eagerly stared at him, unwilling to miss a single word. Yang Kai's letter was written very plainly, and the content was exactly as Lu Si had expected, requesting Grandmaster Xiao to refine a pill for him. After finishing, Yang Kai directly handed the letter over. Lu Si's Yuan Qi quickly dried the handwriting, carefully folded it, and placed it into his pocket, carefully patting his chest and letting out a long sigh of relief. If he went this time, he was afraid he wouldn't be rejected like last time. "Young Master Yang, please don't embarrass yourself." After finishing this, Lu Si awkwardly cupped his fists. "It's fine. I asked young Master Yang to stay in the Lu family for a few more days. This old master will go to Hidden Cloud Peak. If the pill is successfully refined, this old master will definitely deliver this jade bed to you." Lu Si sincerely said. Yang Kai frowned. "That won't do, I want this jade bed now, I still have to return to the central capital." Lu Si immediately showed an embarrassed look. "But this is a mysterious grade mid-rank pill, even if Grandmaster Xiao personally takes action, he may not be able to refine it. If the refinement fails, this old master will need this jade bed." What he said was also the truth. Although Xiao Fusheng could refine mysterious grade top-rank pills, when it came to alchemy, no one dared to make any guarantees. Perhaps Grandmaster Xiao would be in a bad state and fail to refine a pill. If that really happened, the jade bed would be gone, and Lu Si would have no place to cry to. "Well, if you help me bring something to Grandmaster Xiao, I can guarantee that the pill will be refined." Yang Kai frowned and thought for a moment before shouting outside, "Who has a piece of jade that can't be used?" Everyone outside the room glanced at each other before fixing their eyes on a piece of white jade hanging from Lu Liang's waist. Lu Liang subconsciously covered the jade pendant and glared at the crowd. "What are you doing?" "This is this old master's token of love. I've worn it for many years." "Bring it in." Lu Si shouted, immediately silencing Lu Liang. Walking in, Lu Liang took off the jade pendant from his waist, bowed, and handed it to Yang Kai with a flattering smile, asking, "Young Master Yang, what do you want this old master's jade for?" Yang Kai grinned, reached out and took the jade pendant, then pushed his Yuan Qi and slammed it into the jade. Lu Liang's heart suddenly went cold. Under his anxious gaze, the palm hit the jade pendant but didn't damage it in the slightest, only some Yuan Qi seemed to have drilled into it. Watching with rapt attention, both Lu Si and Lu Liang were amazed. The more they watched, the more surprised they felt. How could the two of them not see that Yang Kai was manipulating Yuan Qi to create some traces in the jade pendant? Simply put, he was using this method to send a message, conveying some information that couldn't be expressed in words. But while it was easy to say, it was difficult to do. This required a very subtle and precise manipulation of Yuan Qi to achieve this. The output of yuan qi couldn't be too little, but it also couldn't be too much. After a long time, Yang Kai withdrew his palm and handed the jade pendant to Lu Si. If you give this to Grandmaster, I guarantee you a successful refinement. His tone was quite confident. Lu Si solemnly received it. Yang Kai grinned again and said, however, the information in this jade can only be spied on once before it disappears, so Elder Si must be careful on the way. Lu Si was stunned, immediately shaking his head and smiling wryly. He knew that the information he left in the jade was extremely important and he didn't want him to know about it, so he used this method. Not minding, Lu Si nodded. Lu Liang also eagerly said from the side, Elder Si, this is a token of love between me and my wife many years ago, you must bring it back. Lu Si glared at him, causing Lu Liang to let out a hollow laugh and quickly retreat. Can this old master ask, what is the message in this jade pendant? Lu Si couldn't help but be curious. It's the same spirit array, but it's different from the previous one. If you bring it to Grandmaster, he'll know what it is, Yang Kai smiled gently. When he left Hidden Cloud Peak, Yang Kai had only glimpsed a single spirit array from the true alchemic way, so he had no choice but to leave it behind. Chapter 381. He vaguely remembered that the spirit array he had left behind had a chance to increase the grade of a pill refinement. But now Yang Kai had also gained insight into many of the mysteries of the true alchemic way. Now, he had given Lu Si a new spirit array that could increase the success rate of alchemy, and its grade was much higher than the previous one, which was why he was so confident. With Xiao Fu Sheng's alchemy skills, coupled with this spirit array, there was no chance of failure. Are you sure it'll succeed? You won't fail? Lu Si asked worriedly. Absolutely. Yang Kai nodded solemnly. Just in case. There's no just in case. Lu Si smiled bitterly, not knowing what to say. Yang Kai rubbed his hands and stood up, smiling as he said to Lu Si, Elder Si, there's no time to lose, I think you should hurry to Hidden Cloud Peak. Right. Lu Si was reminded by him and also felt his heart burn with excitement. The alchemy materials had already been prepared. Although these materials were not easy to find, the Lu family's capital was not weak. For Lu Si, they would naturally do their best. Lu Si was very decisive. He stood up and took out some jade boxes from his room. These jade boxes contained the medicinal ingredients that he had collected. After wrapping them up, Lu Si turned around and saw that Yang Kai had already picked up the yang crystal jade bed he had been sitting on and placed it on his shoulder, grinning from ear to ear. Elder Si, it was a pleasure to cooperate. Yang Kai chuckled and without any trace of politeness, strode out carrying the jade bed. Lu Si opened his mouth but swallowed the words he was about to say. He could only hope that what Yang Kai said was true. Lu Liang and the others who had been waiting with their heads down suddenly looked up and saw Yang Kai's domineering figure, causing their jaws to drop to the ground. The yang crystal jade bed that Elder Si had used to save his life had been carried away by someone else? Looking behind Yang Kai, Elder Si saw a helpless look on his face as he followed behind him. The Lu family members were all horrified. Everyone, please wait a moment. Yang Kai chuckled and called out to the crowd. Then, he strode out with his head held high. He looked exactly like a robber who had just returned from a fruitful journey. The masters of the Lu family. They could only watch helplessly. After taking a few steps, he felt someone pulling him back. Turning around, he saw Lu Si looking at him with a worried expression. He stammered, wanting to say something, but hesitated. What happened? Yang Kai suddenly became impatient. For the sake of a yang crystal jade bed, he had been entangled with Lu Si for so long. Young Master Yang, this old master will ask one last time, can you really succeed? He was clearly still a little worried. When he said this, he stared at the jade bed on Yang Kai's shoulder, as if he was holding on to his first love, unwilling to let go. If you don't have the guts to bet, then I'll bet with you. Then return the letter to me. I don't want to do such a thankless task. Yang Kai was displeased and coldly snorted. Lu Si's head started to hurt. After struggling for a while, he gritted his teeth. This old man believes you. That's right. Yang Kai snorted. Let go. Lu Si awkwardly retracted his hand, glancing at the jade bed with great reluctance before reluctantly turning his eyes away. Yang Kai strode away. Waiting for his back to disappear, the Lu family group became extremely worried. Lu Liang quickly stepped forward. Elder Si, isn't this a bit too hasty? Then what do you think we should do? An opportunity has been placed in front of me. Do you think I should just let it slip through my fingers? Lu Si was also quite depressed and sighed. So be it life or death, it all comes down to this. This old master will leave for a few days. Saying so, he leapt up into the air and disappeared like a bolt of lightning. After Lu Si disappeared, Lu Liang's face became gloomy as he thought for a long time before quickly calling out, "You guys, personally monitor that young Master Yang and see what he'll do in the next few days. Don't expose yourself." The several masters nodded solemnly. Lu family backyard. Yang Kai returned valiantly, and as soon as he entered, he saw Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman sitting in the courtyard, bored out of their minds, accompanied by Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian. After seeing Yang Kai, Qiu Yimeng was stunned and stared at the yang crystal jade bed he had brought back. Little Lord. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian also quickly came up. After a few days of healing, the two of them had almost completely healed, and from the outside, there was no sign of injury at all. Where did you get such a big piece of jade? Qiu Yimeng couldn't help smiling. The Lu family's treasure. Yang Kai responded casually, walking over to the stone table in the courtyard and setting down the jade bed. It's beautiful. Luo Xiaoman didn't know what was good for her and stepped forward to touch the jade bed. It's quite warm, it looks like we can sleep on it. Qiu Yimeng's expression suddenly became dignified. Just now, she had thought that Yang Kai had just taken a big piece of jade from the Lu family, but now that she had taken a closer look, it was clear that this was a kind of precious treasure that contained a great deal of energy. If it was used in artifact refining, it would definitely be of great use. Her delicate jade fingers gently stroked the yang crystal jade bed, and the more she examined it, the more her expression became strange. This treasure doesn't seem to be of a low grade. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were also observing it, and as they did so, their expressions slowly changed. Such a big piece of jade was rare even in the Yang family. Only the heavens knew how much money the Lu family had spent to obtain it. This is a mysterious grade mid-rank Yang jade? After a long time, Tu Feng's expression changed as he confirmed this. Hearing his words, everyone jumped in fright, their faces filled with shock. Mysterious grade mid-rank. This kind of treasure was already extraordinarily high. In this world, of all the precious treasures, mysterious grade high rank was the best, and there was only a small gap between mid-rank and high rank. What was even rarer was that this large piece of yang jade seemed to be naturally formed, slowly exuding a warm aura, making it ideal for sitting on a bed. Even if one didn't cultivate a yang attribute secret art, if one sat on it for many years, they would still obtain many benefits. Is it really mysterious grade mid-rank? Qiu Yimeng looked at Tu Feng in amazement. Although her eyesight wasn't bad, compared to an immortal ascension boundary master, she was still somewhat lacking. It's mysterious grade mid-rank. Tang Yuxian also confirmed, and after saying so, a strange light flashed across her beautiful eyes as she stared straight at Yang Kai. Little Lord, are you really from the Lu family? Of course. Qiu Yimeng frowned and muttered. I remember that the Lu family's above immortal ascension boundary Lu Si encountered some problems when breaking through, causing his meridians to be blocked. At that time, my Qiu family's grand elder told him that it was best to use yang jade to warm his bed so that the gentle yang yuan qi could clear his meridians. Otherwise, after a long time, not only would his strength decline, even his life would be in danger. Is this Lu Si's jade bed? Thinking of this possibility, Qiu Yimeng's heart trembled. Yang Kai looked at her with a little surprise and said, You know quite a lot. Really? Qiu Yimeng immediately covered her mouth, unable to believe it. This time, even Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were shocked. Lu Si, they naturally knew about him. As one of the few above immortal ascension boundary masters, He had long been famous throughout the world. However, no one could understand what kind of heaven-defying method Yang Kai had used to force Lu Si to hand over the jade bed that was comparable to his own life. Could it be that Yang Kai had killed Lu Si? Little Lord. Tang Yuxian looked at Yang Kai strangely and asked, "What kind of price did you pay? How did you get this from Lu Si?" Qiu Yimeng and Tu Feng also looked at him curiously. Without even mentioning the immeasurable value of this jade bed, coupled with its special use for Lu Si, if Yang Kai hadn't paid a huge price, how could he have brought it back safely? I helped him with a small favor, so he gave it to me. Yang Kai smiled lightly and didn't say much. Qiu Yimeng's eyes flashed, seemingly contemplating something. Both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian obviously didn't believe Yang Kai's story and were both quite surprised. I'll ask Lu Liang myself. Qiu Yimeng saw that he didn't want to say anything more and snorted proudly. With the relationship between the Qiu family and the Lu family, if she asked Lu Liang, she would naturally know the truth. Do as you wish. Yang Kai shrugged indifferently. In any case, it wasn't something that couldn't be exposed, so he suddenly said with a look of expectation, "We'll stay here for a few days before leaving. Qiu Yimeng, if you can't wait, you can return to the central capital first." "I'll wait for you." Qiu Yimeng smiled sweetly. Yang Kai then carried the Yang crystal jade bed back to his room and entered retreat. So secretive. Qiu Yimeng snorted lightly, flicking her sleeves and leading Luo Xiaoman out, apparently really preparing to ask Lu Liang. "Young Lady Qiu, when you find out, let us know." Tu Feng grinned meaningfully. Qiu Yimeng nodded casually. After Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman left, Tang Yuxian and Tu Feng exchanged a wry smile. "I found that the longer I stayed with the little lord, the more I couldn't see through him." Tu Feng whispered. Tang Yuxian also nodded in agreement. "It seems that every once in a while, he'll bring us some kind of surprise." When they first found Yang Kai, in front of the 4 Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters, Yang Kai had killed him without batting an eyelid. His domineering demeanor had made Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian feel quite satisfied, and he had even framed them, forcing them and the Nan family young lord to cut off their own fingers, and then subduing the golden feather eagle. After returning to High Heaven Pavilion, they learned that Yang Kai and the Demon Lord were actually from the same source. Inside High Heaven Pavilion, Qiu Yimeng had strongly praised Yang Kai, which had made them feel even more shocked. Here, when they had seen him cultivate, the two of them had been injured while he had remained completely unscathed. Now, he had actually effortlessly taken a priceless piece of precious jade from an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master. One after another, which one of these things didn't amaze them? Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian silently calculated that from the time they had found Yang Kai until now, it had only been a month. In such a short period of time, he had intentionally or unintentionally displayed unparalleled strength. Unknowingly, the two blood warriors no longer dared to underestimate him. Not to mention the little lord's background, just his personality alone was extraordinary. Chapter 382. Inside the room, Yang Kai was sitting cross-legged on the Yang crystal jade bed, madly circulating his true Yang secret art. Unlike Lu Si, who was sitting on top of the bed and only guiding a little bit of Yang Qi into his meridians, Yang Kai was now madly devouring the Yang crystal jade bed's energy. His entire body seemed to have become a bottomless pit as all the acupuncture points on his body began to emit an unparalleled suction force. Streams of golden energy, visible to the naked eye, were being drawn out from the Yang crystal jade bed, flowing into Yang Kai's acupuncture points like silk threads, drilling into his meridians and gathering in his dantian. Yang Kai felt a comfortable feeling that he had never felt before. Worthy of a mysterious grade mid-rank jade treasure, Yang Kai could clearly feel how pure and strong the Yang Qi that was pouring into his body was. It seemed that this Yang Qi was stimulating his meridians, constantly tempering the subtle impurities within them, making the Yang Qi even purer and more spotless. Soon, his meridians were saturated and swollen, and with a light dripping sound, a new drop of Yang liquid was formed and immersed in the dantian's meridians. Yang Kai's swollen meridians suddenly became empty, and the speed at which he was devouring the yang qi once again became faster. The yang crystal jade bed's energy quickly became Yang Kai's capital. Drop after drop of yang liquid was formed in the dantian's meridians and the yang crystal jade bed's meridians. The yang crystal jade bed's meridians were also decreasing at a very subtle speed. During this process, Yang Kai's physique and internal organs seemed to have undergone an indescribable baptism. 2 days later, Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes, which were shining brightly. There were now at least 200 drops of yang liquid stored in the dantian's meridians. When Yang Kai came out of the evil cavern, there were only 20 drops of yang liquid left, but now, this number had crazily increased by 10 times. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the energy contained in this large yang crystal jade bed was. The current yang liquid was very different from the original yang liquid. Yang Kai's yuan qi was very pure. The energy contained in a single drop of yang liquid was many times greater than before, so even if there were only 200 drops, it was still a fortune that could not be ignored. It was enough to support Yang Kai's extravagance for a long time. The entire yang crystal jade bed had almost disappeared. Lu Si would never have imagined that the yang crystal jade bed, which the Lu family had spent a huge amount of money and manpower to obtain, would disappear from the world in less than 2 days after Yang Kai had sold it. Only a palm-sized piece was left. Yang Kai squeezed this small piece of yang crystal jade in his hand, his eyes flashing with suspicion. Yang Kai found that even when he circulated his true yang secret art, he still couldn't absorb the energy from this piece of yang crystal jade. It seemed that there was some kind of magical power inside it that was resisting the suction force coming from his body. If he really hardened his heart and absorbed it, Yang Kai was confident he could absorb all of its energy, but after discovering such a strange phenomenon, he also wanted to figure out what was going on. The palm-sized piece of jade was still golden yellow, and its color was even more profound than the outer layer of yang crystal jade. It was much more solid and thick, and there was a faint aura that flowed through it. Looking at it curiously for a moment, Yang Kai couldn't see anything special about it. After a moment of hesitation, Yang Kai released his divine sense to explore it. However, his divine sense was unable to penetrate the jade. It was as if his divine sense had fallen into darkness, unable to detect anything unusual about this piece of jade at all. Both his yuan qi and divine sense were completely ineffective, so this piece of jade really seemed like an ordinary yang crystal jade. However, Yang Kai still felt that there was something strange about it, so he helplessly shouted towards the door, "Tu Feng, Yu Xian." The door opened, and Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian entered together. "What is little lord's order?" Tu Feng asked in a deep voice. Tang Yuxian stared at Yang Kai for a moment. She found that after not seeing him for 2 days, this little lord seemed to have become stronger again. Originally, he had just broken through to the Yuan Qi Boundary 7th stage, but now he seemed to have made a great leap forward, as if he was riding on a hot spring breeze. Strange. Tang Yuxian secretly shook her head. After only 2 days of retreat, how could he have become so strong? Moreover, where had that yang crystal jade bed gone? Tang Yuxian couldn't find any trace of the jade bed in the room. Yang Kai casually tossed the piece of jade in his hand to Tu Feng and said, "Take a look and see if there's anything special about it." Tu Feng caught it and his eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but he quickly suppressed it and frowned, grabbing the piece of jade and releasing his divine sense. After examining it for a while, he shook his head and said, "My attainments in divine sense aren't as good as Yu Xian's, so I can't see anything special about it. Let her take a look." Yang Kai glanced over at Tang Yuxian with some surprise, seemingly not having thought that her attainments in divine sense were actually higher than Tu Feng's. When one reached the immortal ascension boundary, not only did they have to cultivate their physical strength, but they also had to cultivate their soul. Some people had their own unique understandings of divine sense and soul skills, so they were naturally stronger than other immortal ascension boundary cultivators. Tang Yuxian was undoubtedly such a person. Yang Kai nodded and Tu Feng tossed the piece of jade to Tang Yuxian. Tang Yuxian smiled gently, took the piece of jade, closed her beautiful eyes, and poured her divine sense into it. Gradually, the look on Tang Yuxian's charming face became slightly dignified, as if she really had discovered something, and the divine sense she poured into the piece of jade gradually became stronger. Yang Kai's eyes lit up as he secretly looked forward to it. After a moment, Tang Yuxian took back her divine sense and gently exhaled, opening her beautiful eyes, a trace of excitement flashing across them. "Little Lord, this is a piece of precious jade that has given birth to a true spirit." "A true spirit?" Yang Kai and Tu Feng were both shocked. "A true spirit?" Tang Yuxian nodded firmly, "And according to my perception, it has been a long time since it was formed and has already begun to develop sentience, which is why it was able to deceive your divine sense detection." "A true spirit with sentience?" Tu Feng exclaimed, "That means it's been around for at least a few thousand years." Yang Kai gave Tu Feng a wink. Tu Feng froze for a moment before suddenly remembering something. Quietly releasing his divine sense, Tu Feng's expression became cold as he let out a heavy snort, his expression becoming ugly. He felt that there were actually several immortal ascension boundary masters hiding their auras around this room. All of them were monitoring the situation here. These people were obviously masters from the Lu family. It wasn't that Tu Feng's divine sense wasn't as good as these masters, it was just that these masters were using special artifacts. If it weren't for the look in Yang Kai's eyes just now, Tu Feng wouldn't have been able to detect them. He probably wouldn't have thought to investigate carefully. Secretly surprised, Tu Feng didn't know if Yang Kai was just being cautious or had already noticed. After knowing that there were people monitoring them from outside, Tu Feng didn't dare to speak too loudly. Yang Kai beckoned to the two of them. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian quickly sat down cross-legged across from Yang Kai. The three of them leaned their heads together and whispered to each other. "I've heard before about jade true spirits. It is said that ancient jade treasures have a certain chance of giving birth to true spirits. Is this the case with this one?" Yang Kai lowered his voice and asked. Tang Yuxian nodded and said softly, It's just that the probability of a jade true spirit forming is very small. Out of 10,000 pieces of jade treasures, there may not even be one." As she spoke, her expression became slightly excited, but once a jade true spirit forms, its value immediately rises several dozen times. Tu Feng also nodded firmly, Kai Yang's interest was piqued. Suddenly he asked, "What's the use of a jade true spirit?" The two blood warriors glanced at each other and suddenly felt a sense of pride. After following Yang Kai for so long, he had always amazed them, but now it seemed that in the end, he was still just a young man. He didn't know any of the secrets and rumors that the two of them knew. "It turns out that we are still useful," Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian thought to themselves. Without hesitation, Tang Yuxian quickly explained, "The formation of a jade true spirit is extremely difficult. It must be formed in a very large-scale jade mine. If my guess is correct, the Lu family's Yang crystal jade bed should have been mined from a large Yang crystal jade mine. The grade of the Yang crystal jade mine in the periphery may not be high, so the Yang crystal jade bed is the core product of this jade mine. And this small piece should be the centermost part of the Yang crystal jade bed, right?" At this time, Tang Yuxian could naturally guess the origin of this piece of jade. Tang Yuxian smiled. They think that the Yang crystal jade bed is the essence of the jade mine, but in fact, this piece of jade is the essence of the essence. The energy and value it contains is likely even higher than that of the jade mine. Yang Kai suddenly became excited. "A true spirit is the best artifact spirit ever born." Tang Yuxian's eyes became blurred, her voice filled with undisguised admiration. "If you can refine it into an artifact, when that artifact is completed, its grade will definitely increase greatly. It can be said that if this thing is refined by an artifact refining grandmaster, it may even result in a spirit grade artifact." Spirit grade, that was just a legend. Xiao Fu Sheng had pursued this all his life, only to refine a single spirit grade pill. Similarly, the highest grade of artifact so far was only mysterious grade top rank, which was extremely rare. No spirit-grade artifact had ever appeared in this world. It was as if there was some kind of mysterious force that suppressed this world, making mysterious grade top-rank artifacts the limit. If we give it some more time and allow it to develop sentience, it will be able to play a huge role. It will be able to fly into the sky and escape into the ground. It is omnipotent, so subduing it will be a huge help. Tu Feng added. How long will you give it? Yang Kai asked. Tang Yuxian chuckled. At least a few hundred years, maybe even more. Yang Kai couldn't help rolling his eyes. After a few hundred years, only the heavens knew whether he would be dead or alive. The growth of a true spirit is very slow. After all, it isn't made of flesh and blood, but once it fully matures, I'm afraid there will be no opponent in this world. So powerful! Yang Kai sucked in a deep breath. It's that powerful. Tang Yuxian nodded solemnly. In addition to artifact refining, if you can safely absorb and refine a true spirit, it will be of great help to a person. It may bring you some unexpected changes and allow you to gain more heaven-defying means. Listening to her, Yang Kai suddenly became interested. Tang Yuxian saw the change in his expression and quickly waved her hand to warn him, "Little Lord, you must not have any ideas about it right now. The energy contained in this small piece of jade is beyond your imagination. If you really try to absorb it into your body, I'm afraid it will only lead to disaster." Chapter 383. And I understand. Yang Kai saw her speak so seriously and couldn't help feeling a chill in his heart, thinking that it was fortunate he hadn't rashly absorbed it just now. After explaining the pros and cons, Tang Yuxian handed the small piece of jade back to Yang Kai and said, "Little Lord, please take care of this. Don't let others know about it, otherwise it will attract the covetous eyes of masters." Yang Kai nodded. With the black book space, it was very convenient to hide things. Tu Feng grinned, silently and strangely laughing. It looks like the Lu family has suffered a big loss this time. No matter what price Yang Kai had paid in exchange for Lu Xi's Yang crystal jade bed, it now seemed that Yang Kai had gained a huge advantage. Tang Yuxian also smiled tenderly. They probably didn't expect there to be a true spirit inside. The true spirit had already begun to develop sentience and was capable of deceiving the divine senses of most masters. Previously, it had been hiding in the Yang crystal jade bed, but Lu Xi had not been aware of it. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to give it to Yang Kai. The Lu family is a bit short-sighted, even daring to monitor the movements of the little lord. Such people aren't worth winning over. Tu Feng snorted. My and Yuxian's injuries have already healed. When do you want to leave, little lord? Let's leave tomorrow. Yang Kai didn't intend to stay in the Lu family for long, but a few days ago he had to wait for the two blood warriors to heal, and now he had to absorb the energy inside the Yang jade, so he had no choice but to delay his journey. After being away from home for so many years, he couldn't wait to go back and see his parents. Good, then I'll inform young Lady Qiu. She seemed to have said she wanted to come with us. Tang Yuxian nodded. The news that Yang Kai wanted to leave the Lu family quickly spread. Lu Liang and the other blood warriors all felt a little relieved. They didn't know why, but every day Yang Kai was here, they felt uncomfortable, as if they were afraid the other Yang family young lords would learn that their Lu family had contact with Yang Kai. That night, Lu Liang held a banquet and invited Yang Kai, Qiu Yimeng and the others. At the banquet, everyone only talked about the wind and snow. Regarding the Yang family's inheritance war and the future situation of the central capital, he remained silent. Qiu Yimeng looked on coldly, knowing that the Lu family was completely not optimistic about Yang Kai's chances, but she didn't say anything. Just like last time, he ate a little and left early. Yang Kai, on the other hand, was eating heartily and did not mention anything about roping in the Lu family. Drinking wine, eating meat, tasting fruits and other delicacies, this kind of inaction made Lu Liang and the others feel relieved. He was really afraid that at the last moment he would mention something. If that happened, Lu Liang wouldn't know how to answer. The wine was the same, but it was different from the reception for Yang Kai and the others a few days ago. The attitude of the Liu family members had subtly changed. After drinking, everyone returned to their rooms to rest. The next day, the Lu family's elders, led by Lu Liang, bid farewell to Yang Kai and Qiu Yimeng at the main entrance. Lu Liang looked at Yang Kai sincerely and said, "Young Master Yang, this trip to the central capital will be fraught with danger. The inheritance war must not be taken lightly." Yang Kai nodded faintly. Lu Liang smiled and said, "It's rare for young Master Yang to come to the Lu family. This Lu has nothing to offer, so I can only offer you some silver as a token of my sincerity. I hope young Master Yang does not dislike it." Saying so, he smiled and motioned to the person next to him. The man hurriedly stepped forward and presented a box of banknotes with both hands. Both Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's faces sank. Both of them were somewhat unhappy. With a cold expression, they stared at Yang Kai, waiting for his instructions. Yang Kai didn't care at all and just smiled. Since Patriarch Lu is so kind, this young master will accept. Tu Feng accepted. Tu Feng nodded gently and took the box of banknotes. The Lu family wishes young Master Yang victory in the inheritance war. Lu Liang gently cupped his fists and said some polite words. Yang Kai laughed, "Then I'll take advantage of Patriarch Lu's auspicious words. Farewell." Saying so, he mounted his cloud-treading colt and left. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both snorted and followed closely behind Yang Kai. Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman also rode atop the cloud-treading colts the Lu family had prepared for them. After a few steps, Qiu Yimeng paused and whispered, "Lu Liang, this time I'm afraid you've miscalculated." Lu Liang's expression changed slightly and was about to speak, but Qiu Yimeng had already mounted her cloud-treading colt and shot off into the distance. Behind him, the faces of the Lu family group were not very good. Miscalculated? Lu Liang frowned as he pondered over Qiu Yimeng's final words. Her meaning was obvious. She was blaming Lu Liang for underestimating Yang Kai. But, even if you are the first young lady of the Qiu family, in the end, you are still just a young woman. In terms of vision and strategy, how can you compare with this old master? Although Lu Liang felt a little uncomfortable, he didn't take Qiu Yimeng's words to heart. Time will prove whether this old master has miscalculated or not. As the 5 cloud-treading colts moved forward, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman slowly caught up from behind. After leaving the Lu family, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both wore gloomy expressions, both of them feeling somewhat sorry for Yang Kai. When he finally left, Lu Liang seemed to be sincere and generous, but in fact, everyone present understood what he was thinking. If the Lu family really intended to make friends with Yang Kai, at the last moment, it would have been impossible for them to only offer some money. What was the inheritance war about? It was a competition of the various young lords' connections and means. To be specific, it was a competition of talents and materials. If the Lu family really wanted to participate in the inheritance war, they would have to stand on Yang Kai's side. At the very least, they would have to offer some talents, precious treasures, divine armaments, secret books, and so on. What was the point of just giving a few silvers? In this world, sometimes, even if you had money, you wouldn't necessarily be able to buy anything, especially good things. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian had only been with Yang Kai for a short time, but they could see that Yang Kai's aptitude was extraordinary and his cultivation was profound. Both of them were confident in Yang Kai's future. The Lu family treating Yang Kai so disrespectfully, it would be strange for the 2 blood warriors to feel comfortable. It was just that they couldn't understand why the Lu family didn't intend to stand on Yang Kai's side. Why would they give him a few silvers in the end? This undoubtedly gave people the feeling that even though I want to be on good terms with you, I won't bet my family on you. It's like I'm a two-faced person. Only Yang Kai knew that Lu Liang had only given him some silvers because he knew Xiao Fu Sheng. If it weren't for Xiao Fu Sheng, Lu Liang probably wouldn't have given him anything at the last moment. Seemingly aware of the dissatisfaction in the 2 blood warriors' hearts, Tu Feng didn't hesitate. Qiu Yimeng rolled her eyes and said, "If you have something to say, just say it. What's the point of holding back?" Tu Feng curled his lips and said angrily, "Then I'll say it. Young Lady Qiu, just pretend you didn't hear anything." "Then, go ahead. I also want to hear it. Little Lord." Tu Feng raised his voice and shouted, "I took a look. Lu Liang gave me exactly 3 million taels of silver. Isn't he too stingy?" How much do you want? Yang Kai glanced back at him and couldn't help laughing. His Lu family is a first-class family. What's the point of giving him only 3 million silvers? If you want to buy a few bottles of pills, that money is gone. If you want to buy a few good artifacts, that money is also gone. At the very least, you should give him 10 million silvers. That's more in line with the Lu family's status. And he's too stingy. Tang Yuxian also nodded. 3 million silvers is already a lot. Yang Kai smiled. I'm not afraid you'll laugh at me. This young lord doesn't have a single coin on him right now, so these 3 million silvers will be of great use to me. This amount of money looks like a lot, but when it comes to the inheritance war, it's basically useless. Tu Feng said indignantly. Lu Liang clearly knows this, yet he still dares to do such a thing. If it weren't for his Lu family having some relationship with young Lady Qiu's family, I would have beaten him up and stuffed those silver bills into his mouth. Qiu Yimeng shook her head and smiled bitterly. Lu Liang really was too cautious this time. But it doesn't seem to be entirely his fault. It's your little lord's acting that's too much. What do you mean? How is it the little lord's fault? Tang Yuxian was stunned. You can ask him yourself. He knows in his heart how he behaved these past few days in the Lu family. Qiu Yimeng said, urging her cloud-treading colt to catch up with Yang Kai, turning her head to look at him. You little brat, do you know what kind of situation you're in right now? Why are you still so careless, letting the Lu family slip away from you? Yang Kai glanced at her for a moment before retracting his gaze. I'm talking to you. Qiu Yimeng suddenly said bitterly, you're not only letting go of an ally, you're also making yourself an enemy. Don't you understand? Now that you've come and gone, the gap between us is too big. Ally? Yang Kai sneered. Those who only want to have a mutually beneficial relationship with me aren't qualified to be my ally. But how can there be no mutually beneficial alliance now? Aren't you a bit too naive? I'm too lazy to argue with you. I don't need others to judge what I do. Qiu Yimeng choked on her words and angrily shouted, just you wait, when this young lady goes back this time, I'll join forces with the other Yang family young lords and crush your arrogance. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were both shocked and quickly said, Young Lady Qiu, you can't just say that. Yang Kai sneered, you can try, but when the time comes, don't blame me for erasing your Qiu family from the central capital. Qiu Yimeng stared blankly at Yang Kai, as if she hadn't expected him to say such vicious words. Even Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were stunned, feeling that Yang Kai's boasting was indeed a bit too arrogant, and it was also quite hurtful. Just as they were about to open their mouths and say a few good words for Yang Kai to comfort Qiu Yimeng quickly recovered and not only didn't seem to care, she even smiled towards Yang Kai, her beautiful eyes flashing brilliantly as she asked, Yang Kai, tell me honestly, besides that dragon lady, how many connections do you have? How many forces can you win over? Yang Kai's words were so arrogant that Qiu Yimeng immediately realized something, which was why she was so interested. Glancing over at her, Yang Kai sneered and said indifferently, None, I'm just a lone wolf. I'd be a pig to believe you. Qiu Yimeng sneered. Chapter 384. The Mist River ran from east to west, like a long dragon, splitting the earth into two halves. On the river, which was more than 1,000 meters wide, there was a turbulent current that surged fiercely. Yang Kai's group of 5 arrived at the edge of the Mist River and couldn't help stopping as they looked at the turbulent waters. We're almost there. After crossing the Mist River and crossing Feng Province, we'll reach the central capital. Tu Feng seemed to be afraid that Yang Kai had been away from home for so many years and had forgotten the way home, so he said, with the cloud-treading colt strength, it'll take at most 3 days. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Little lord, you rest here, I'll go find a boat to cross the river. Tu Feng grinned meaningfully, releasing his divine sense for a moment before turning around and flying off in a certain direction. This group of people were all at least Yuan Qi boundary, so even though the Mist River was more than 1,000 meters wide, it couldn't stop them from flying. However, while people could fly, cloud-treading colts couldn't, so they still had to find a ferry to transport these monster beast horses. Not long after, a medium-sized ship sailed towards them with Tu Feng standing on the bow and shouting at the crowd. Tang Yuxian grinned, leading her and Tu Feng's mounts and saying, "Let's go." The 4 people and 5 monster beasts arrived at the shore and were about to board the boat when the boatman suddenly frowned and turned to Tu Feng. "This hero, why didn't you tell this old man that you have 5 horses?" When Luo Xiaoman heard this, she couldn't help giggling. Cloud-treading colts were indeed very similar to horses, but although the two were similar, in the end, they were not the same species. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to see this. Naturally, it was understandable. Qiu Yimeng and Tang Yuxian also couldn't help laughing. Tu Feng asked, "What's wrong with having horses? Don't tell me you don't need horses?" "That's not it." The boatman was a little old man in his 50s and shook his head. "It's just that these horses need to be paid to cross the river." Tu Feng immediately rolled his eyes. "Just pay, it's not like we'll be short of you." Hearing this, the boatman was ecstatic. "Since you say so, then hurry up and get on board." The group of people slowly shook their heads. Everyone's status was not low, and they all had cultivations. An ordinary old man was ferrying people around to make a living. Although he seemed to be a little unscrupulous, he didn't intend to argue with him. The ship was not big, but it was big enough to carry 5 people and 5 monster beasts at a time. Following the familiar movements of the boatman, the ship sailed briskly toward the center of the river. Standing on the deck of the boat, Tang Yuxian smiled and said, "I've never been on a boat before. It's so shaky. If I hadn't been on one often, I'm afraid I would have easily fainted." Tu Feng nodded. "Indeed, it's not easy to make a living on the riverside." Although Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman didn't say anything, they both showed expressions of approval. The two of them seemed to have never been on a boat before, so they were naturally quite interested in this journey. Rocking back and forth with the boat, they couldn't help but point to the turbulent river. "If a river is so fierce, what is the sea like?" Tu Feng asked, somewhat digressing from the topic. Although he was strong and knowledgeable, he had never seen the sea before. Naturally, he couldn't say anything about it, so he simply turned to the boatman and asked, "Old man, have you ever been to the sea?" The boatman smiled and shook his head. "This old man has spent his entire life on the banks of the Lan River. Where would he find the time to go to the sea? However, although I've never been there before. However, I heard that the ships on the sea are all incomparably huge. It seems that all of them are several hundred zhang long. The waves on the sea are ferocious, but the ships are stable on them. Even if you pour a cup of water and put it on the table, it won't spill a single drop." "Is that true?" Tu Feng asked with a smile, apparently not believing it. "How could it not be true? Just think about it, those big ships are so big, even if the waves are fierce, they can't be shaken." The 2 blood warriors, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman, suddenly showed interested looks. Although they knew that the boatman's words couldn't be taken seriously, since they had nothing else to do, they decided to listen to him to pass the time. Seeing everyone's interest, the boatman didn't show any signs of fear and actually began talking non-stop. Yang Kai smiled silently to the side, his expression indifferent. Of all the people present, only he had been to the sea and had almost never returned. Regarding the boatman's exaggeration, Yang Kai didn't bother to point it out. After talking for a while, the boat arrived at the center of the Lan River. Yang Kai's mind was wandering when suddenly he felt something was off, and he couldn't help narrowing his eyes as he stared straight at the boatman. The boatman was still talking about the sea when Yang Kai suddenly said, "Old man, the way you paddle seems to be a bit wrong." Everyone on the boat was taken aback and turned to look at Yang Kai. The boatman laughed and asked, "Little brother, what do you mean by that?" Kai Yang smiled faintly. "People who paddle all year round will find the rhythm of the paddle in their breathing, especially in this kind of torrential river, because if you can't find the rhythm, you'll only have to pay twice as much physical strength as others. Old man, since you've lived by this water all your life, don't tell me you don't understand this." Hearing this, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian's expressions suddenly became dignified as they stared vigilantly at the boatman. The boatman's eyes seemed to flash with a trace of surprise and panic, but he quickly calmed down and said, "What little brother says makes sense, but this old man has been paddling like this all his life, so I'm afraid I've become accustomed to it. Another day I'll try your method and see if it doesn't save me a bit of effort. Yang Kai continued to smile. You used this method to paddle across half the river, yet your expression didn't change at all, and, since you live by this river, you should eat river fish for food, right? There's no smell of fish on this boat, ha ha. His voice gradually became cold as his eyes slowly narrowed. Old man, you're not an ordinary person. Before his words had even fallen, Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian both rushed towards the boatman. At that moment, the silver blood-golden feather eagle hovering in the sky suddenly let out a sharp cry, a clear warning tone in its voice. Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman's beautiful faces also paled as they quickly pushed their strength. Walala. Suddenly, several water columns appeared on the surface of the river. Each water column had a person hiding in it. A huge suction force suddenly appeared from below, and the big boat that was sailing on the river suddenly seemed to have fallen into a swamp, unable to move forward or backward, quickly sinking. Yang Kai, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman were just about to fly up when a huge pressure suddenly appeared above their heads. Suddenly attacked, all three of them began to fall. A huge whirlpool suddenly appeared, and in a flash, the entire boat was swallowed up along with the people on board. The 5 cloud-treading colts were also sucked into this whirlpool and disappeared. The moment he fell into the water, Yang Kai felt an unparalleled burst of power around him. Obviously, the 2 blood warriors had begun fighting with the boatman. Faintly discernible silhouettes swam like fishes from all around, rapidly approaching this side. Yang Kai hurriedly glanced around. What he saw caused his expression to darken. Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian were fighting 3 people underwater. All 3 of them were Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters, and none of them were mediocre. One was an Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage, one was an Immortal Ascension Boundary 7th stage, and one was an Immortal Ascension Boundary 5th stage master. Even though the 2 blood warriors were powerful, they couldn't escape in a short time. The closest enemy was less than 10 meters away from Yang Kai, and Yang Kai could clearly see him grinning at him from under the water. Waving both of his hands, a blue light shot out from his palms and shot towards Yang Kai. With a wave of his hand, Kai Yang sent out a fist strike. The fist strike he sent out was like a giant golden seal, meeting the blue light head-on. With a muffled bang, the blue light dimmed significantly, but it was still not completely blocked. In a hurry, Yang Kai could only twist his body to avoid this attack and quickly float to the surface of the water. Quickly glancing around, Yang Kai saw that Qiu Yi and Meng Nu were not far from him, but their situation was undoubtedly safer than his own because of the people underwater. Besides the 3 masters who were entangled with Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian, almost all of them were converging on him. They're all here for me. Yang Kai instantly understood, but there was no time to think about all this. A moment later, he broke the surface of the water and leapt into the air, but before he could fly away, a figure appeared below. It was the same person who had just attacked Yang Kai. At this moment, this man stared coldly at Yang Kai, a somewhat indifferent look on his face as he waved his hand and sent out a ray of light towards Yang Kai. At the critical moment, the golden feather eagle actually leapt out and flapped its wings, sending out countless golden beams of light. As the golden light flashed in front of him, the man let out a strange cry and dove back into the water. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yang Kai turned around and quickly flew towards the shore. Hua hua hua. With a burst of sound, 6 or 7 figures floated mid-air, glancing around before chasing after Yang Kai. Among them, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman were also present, but the 2 of them obviously wanted to help Yang Kai. Stop them! A middle-aged man who was leading the group ordered. Don't kill them! Immediately, 2 people responded and left the group, grinning as they rushed towards Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman. Qiu Yimeng's pretty face became cold as she whispered to Luo Xiaoman, I'm afraid they're here to deal with Yang Kai. Don't hold back, they won't dare kill you. Luo Xiaoman nodded firmly, her wet clothes further accentuating her seductive figure. Another series of splashing sounds rang out as the 2 blood warriors and the 3 Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters emerged from the water. Tu Feng's entire body was wrapped in a brown light as he fiercely attacked, completely disregarding whether he would be injured or not. Tang Yuxian also pushed her Yuan Qi, her graceful body flashing as she unleashed a variety of martial skills, her pretty face filled with anxiety. Or you dare attack the central capital's Yang family? Tu Feng roared, sending out a wave of qi. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, martial world, and tales of demons and gods.